Elizabeth Parker stepped into the grand lobby of the Regal Hotel with a mix of awe and determination. The opulent chandeliers cast a warm glow over the marble floors, and the scent of fresh flowers mingled with the crisp, clean air. It was her first day as an intern, a position she had fought hard to earn, and the weight of the opportunity pressed lightly on her shoulders. With her warm smile and a spark of optimism in her eyes, Elizabeth approached the reception desk. The receptionist, a seasoned employee named Linda, gave her a quick once-over before handing her a name badge and a crisp uniform. "Welcome to the Regal Hotel, Elizabeth. Let's see what you've got," Linda said, her tone a blend of professionalism and mild skepticism. The first few days were a whirlwind of tasks, carrying luggage, answering phones, and guiding guests to their rooms. Elizabeth tackled each task with enthusiasm, her positivity shining through even the most mundane chores. She treated every guest with genuine kindness, whether they were a weary business traveler or a family on vacation. Her ability to remember names and small details about guests quickly set her apart. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. On her third day, Elizabeth faced her first major challenge. A high-profile guest, known for his demanding nature, had arrived unexpectedly. The staff was in a frenzy, trying to accommodate his numerous requests. Elizabeth, observing the chaos, took a deep breath and stepped forward. "Mr. Howard, welcome to the Regal Hotel. My name is Elizabeth. How can I assist you today?" she asked, her voice steady and warm. Mr. Howard glanced at her, clearly unimpressed. "I need my room changed, a specific brand of bottled water, and my dinner reservation moved to 7 p.m. sharp," he barked. Elizabeth nodded, jotting down the details with precision. "I'll take care of everything, Mr. Howard. Please, make yourself comfortable in the lounge while we prepare your new room." Elizabeth quickly coordinated with housekeeping, the restaurant, and the concierge, ensuring each of Mr. Howard's demands were met promptly. When she returned to him, everything was in perfect order. Mr. Howard, although still stern, nodded in approval. "Not bad for a newbie," he muttered almost to himself. As the days turned into weeks, Elizabeth's reputation grew. She handled each task with grace, turning potential disasters into seamless experiences. Her colleagues began to respect her, seeing not just her hard work, but the genuine care she put into her role. She was no longer just an intern. She was becoming an indispensable part of the Regal Hotel family. In the quiet moments after a long shift, Elizabeth would stand in the grand lobby, looking up at the chandeliers and feeling a deep sense of belonging. This was just the beginning of her journey, but she knew she was exactly where she was meant to be. Elizabeth Parker's early days at the Regal Hotel were a blur of activity. Every morning, she arrived before the first light of dawn, her uniform freshly pressed, her energy palpable. The grand lobby, with its elegant decor and polished marble floors, greeted her like a second home. She greeted each guest with a sincere smile, her warm demeanor immediately putting them at ease. One crisp morning, as Elizabeth was checking in a family of 4, she noticed a young boy clutching a worn-out teddy bear, his eyes wide with awe. "Welcome to the Regal Hotel," she said, crouching down to his level. "What's your bear's name?" The boy's eyes lit up. "His name is Teddy. He's been to lots of hotels, but this one is the nicest." Elizabeth grinned. "Well, Teddy has excellent taste. I hope you both have a wonderful stay here." The parents exchanged grateful glances, appreciating the genuine attention Elizabeth gave to their son. Word of Elizabeth's exceptional service began to spread. One afternoon, she was summoned to assist a particularly difficult guest, Mrs. Thompson, known for her exacting standards. Elizabeth found her in the lounge, tapping her fingers impatiently on the armrest of an opulent chair. "Good afternoon, Mrs. Thompson. My name is Elizabeth. How can I assist you today?" Elizabeth's voice was steady, her expression serene. Mrs. Thompson barely glanced at her. "I've been waiting for my tea for over 20 minutes. This is unacceptable." Without missing a beat, Elizabeth responded, "I apologize for the delay, Mrs. Thompson. I will personally ensure your tea is prepared exactly as you like it and delivered immediately." She turned and swiftly communicated with the kitchen staff, emphasizing the urgency and importance of the request. Minutes later, Elizabeth returned with a perfectly arranged tea tray. "Here you are, Mrs. Thompson. Earl Grey with a splash of milk and 2 sugar cubes, just as you prefer." She set the tray down with a graceful flourish. Mrs. Thompson raised an eyebrow, her expression softening slightly. "Thank you, Elizabeth. I appreciate your attention to detail." Elizabeth nodded, a subtle but triumphant smile playing on her lips. Behind the scenes, Elizabeth's interactions with her colleagues were just as impactful. One evening, As she was closing out her shift, she noticed Linda, the receptionist who had initially been skeptical, struggling with a technical issue on the computer. Elizabeth approached her quietly. "Need a hand, Linda?" Linda sighed, rubbing her temples. "These reports are a nightmare. I can't figure out why the system keeps crashing." Elizabeth leaned in, her eyes scanning the screen. "Let me take a look." Within moments, she had diagnosed and fixed the problem. "There we go. Should be smooth sailing now." Linda exhaled in relief. "Thanks, Elizabeth. You're a lifesaver." From the grand lobby to the bustling back offices, Elizabeth Parker's presence at the Regal Hotel was becoming indispensable. She navigated each day with a blend of competence and compassion, leaving a lasting impression on everyone she encountered. Elizabeth Parker had quickly become a familiar face at the Regal Hotel, her genuine warmth and dedication earning her both friends and foes. In the grand tapestry of hotel life, relationships were woven with intricate threads of camaraderie and competition. Among her friends was Carla, a fellow receptionist who shared Elizabeth's enthusiasm and work ethic. Carla was a whirlwind of energy, her laughter echoing through the lobby, a perfect counterpart to Elizabeth's calm demeanor. "Hey, Liz, did you see the new shipment of flowers for the ballroom? They're absolutely stunning." Carla's excitement was contagious, and Elizabeth couldn't help but smile. "Let's take a quick look during our break," Elizabeth suggested, her eyes sparkling with anticipation. Together, they darted through the staff corridors, giggling like schoolgirls as they admired the vibrant bouquets. Their friendship was a source of joy amidst the daily hustle, a reminder that even in the busiest of times, there was room for laughter. But not everyone at the Regal Hotel shared their camaraderie. Among the staff was Victor, the head concierge, whose ambition was as sharp as his tailored suits. Victor saw Elizabeth's rise through the ranks as a threat to his carefully cultivated position. He watched her with a keen, calculating eye, searching for any misstep. One evening, as the hotel buzzed with activity for a high-profile event, Victor approached Elizabeth with a cold smile. "Elizabeth, I need you to handle the VIP arrivals. Make sure everything is flawless. We can't afford any mistakes tonight." Elizabeth nodded, her expression determined. "Of course, Victor. I'll take care of it." As the guests began to arrive, Elizabeth orchestrated the reception with her usual grace and efficiency. She greeted each VIP with genuine warmth, ensuring their every need was met. The evening seemed to be unfolding perfectly until a sudden mishap threatened to unravel it all. A distinguished guest, Mr. Lawson, arrived with a frown etched deep into his features. "Where is my sweet key? I was promised it would be ready upon my arrival," he barked, causing a ripple of anxiety among the staff. Elizabeth, sensing Victor's eyes on her, stepped forward. "Mr. Lawson, I apologize for the oversight. Allow me to personally escort you to your suite and ensure everything is in order." With a courteous smile, she led Mr. Lawson to his suite, engaging him in light conversation to ease his irritation. By the time they reached his door, his demeanor had softened. "Thank you, Miss Parker. Your assistance has been most satisfactory." As she returned to the lobby, Elizabeth caught Victor's gaze. His eyes were narrow, his lips pressed into a thin line. "Handled well, Parker," he said, though his tone was far from congratulatory. It was clear that Victor's approval was as cold as his calculating nature. The tension between them simmered beneath the surface, a quiet battle of wills. Yet, Elizabeth remained undeterred. She continued to navigate the complexities of her work environment with unwavering resolve, her friendships with colleagues like Carla providing a steadfast source of support. In the labyrinth of the Regal Hotel, Elizabeth's journey was marked by the delicate balance of forging strong alliances while deftly maneuvering around the pitfalls set by those who viewed her as competition. It was a dance of grace and grit, and Elizabeth was determined to emerge victorious. The bustling activity at the Regal Hotel never seemed to relent. Every day brought new guests, each with their own unique needs and demands. Yet, Elizabeth Parker greeted each challenge with unwavering poise. It was a busy Friday afternoon when she was informed of the arrival of a particularly demanding guest, Mr. Donovan, a billionaire known for his impossible standards and unpredictable temper. The air was thick with anticipation as Elizabeth prepared for Mr. Donovan's arrival. The staff whispered amongst themselves, sharing tales of his previous visits to other luxury hotels, each story more daunting than the last. Elizabeth took a deep breath, steeling herself for what was to come. Mr. Donovan's sleek, black limousine pulled up to the hotel entrance. Elizabeth, standing tall in her crisp uniform, stepped forward to greet him. Welcome to the Regal Hotel, Mr. Donovan. My name is Elizabeth, and I will be taking care of your stay. It's an honor to have you with us. He barely glanced at her, his eyes hidden behind dark sunglasses. We'll see if the honor is deserved, he muttered, striding past her into the lobby. Elizabeth followed, maintaining her composed exterior. His suite was, of course, the best in the hotel, but as they reached the top floor, Mr. Donovan's critical eye scanned every detail. The flowers in the hallway are wilting, he snapped, pointing at a barely noticeable blemish on a petal. Elizabeth immediately noted the issue, promising to have it rectified. As they entered the suite, he continued his scrutiny. The pillows are too soft. I want a firmer mattress. And why isn't there a bottle of Chateau Margaux 1990 waiting for me? His voice grew louder with each complaint. Elizabeth nodded, absorbing his tirade with grace. I apologize for the inconvenience, Mr. Donovan. I'll ensure the flowers are replaced, the mattress adjusted, and the wine delivered immediately. Is there anything else I can do to make your stay more comfortable? Mr. Donovan eyed her suspiciously, seemingly searching for a flaw in her demeanor. I also need a private dining experience tonight. The best chef, a custom menu, and absolute privacy. Can you handle that? Elizabeth met his gaze steadily. Consider it done, Mr. Donovan. I will personally oversee every detail. The next few hours were a whirlwind. Elizabeth coordinated with the hotel's head chef, arranging a private dining setup in a secluded part of the hotel's garden. She made sure the new flowers were vibrant and fresh, had the mattress replaced, and procured the exact vintage of wine Mr. Donovan demanded. Each task required meticulous attention, but Elizabeth handled it all with her characteristic calm and efficiency. As the sun set, casting a golden glow over the garden, Mr. Donovan arrived for his private dinner. Elizabeth greeted him at the entrance, her smile unwavering. Everything is prepared to your specifications, Mr. Donovan. Please follow me. He walked into the garden, where a beautifully set table awaited, surrounded by flickering lanterns and the soft murmur of a nearby fountain. The head chef stood ready, his team prepared to serve the bespoke menu. Mr. Donovan surveyed the scene, his stern expression softening ever so slightly. Throughout the evening, Elizabeth remained attentive but unobtrusive, ensuring every aspect of the experience was flawless. As the final course was served, Mr. Donovan looked at her, a hint of surprise in his eyes. I must admit, this is quite impressive. You've exceeded my expectations. Elizabeth bowed her head slightly in gratitude. Thank you, Mr. Donovan. It's my goal to ensure every guest's stay is perfect. By the end of his visit, Mr. Donovan's harsh demeanor had softened, and he left the Regal Hotel with an appreciative nod to Elizabeth. The staff buzzed with the news of her triumph, but Elizabeth took it in stride, simply grateful for the opportunity to prove her skills. Her reputation at the Regal Hotel grew even stronger, her ability to handle the most demanding guests becoming the stuff of legend. And though each day brought new challenges, Elizabeth faced them all with the same unwavering dedication and grace, solidifying her place as a truly exceptional member of the Regal Hotel family. Elizabeth Parker had heard whispers about Alexander Hayes, the elusive heir to the Regal Hotel empire. Though he rarely made public appearances, his decisions shaped the hotel's future, and his reputation for being cold and distant preceded him. When Elizabeth received the news that he would be visiting the hotel, she felt a mix of curiosity and apprehension. The day arrived, and the atmosphere in the hotel was electric with anticipation. Staff members hurried about, ensuring every corner of the establishment gleamed under the meticulous standards set by their mysterious overseer. Elizabeth, as always, was at her post, prepared to handle whatever the day might bring. As the sleek, black town car pulled up to the entrance, Elizabeth straightened her uniform and took a deep breath. The car door opened, and Alexander Hayes stepped out. He was tall and impeccably dressed, exuding an aura of authority. His eyes, a piercing blue, surveyed the lobby with a discerning gaze. Elizabeth stepped forward, her heart racing but her smile steady. Welcome to the Regal Hotel, Mr. Hayes. My name is Elizabeth Parker, and I'm here to assist you with anything you need during your stay. Alexander's eyes flicked to her, cool and assessing. Thank you, Miss Parker, he said, his tone polite but distant. I trust everything is in order? Absolutely, sir. Your suite is ready, and I've made sure all your preferences have been taken care of, Elizabeth replied, maintaining her calm demeanor. As she escorted him to his suite, the silence between them was palpable. Elizabeth could feel the weight of his scrutiny, as if he were evaluating every aspect of the hotel through her. She remained composed, determined to leave a positive impression. In the suite, Alexander's expression remained inscrutable as he glanced around. You seem very capable, Miss Parker, he remarked, his tone giving nothing away. Thank you, Mr. Hayes. I take great pride in my work and in ensuring our our guests have the best possible experience, Elizabeth responded sincerely. Over the next few days, Elizabeth continued to cross paths with Alexander, always maintaining her professionalism. One evening, as she was wrapping up her shift, she noticed him standing alone in the hotel bar, nursing a glass of scotch. Gathering her courage, she approached him. "Good evening, Mr. Hayes. Is there anything I can assist you with?" she asked, her voice steady despite the nerves fluttering in her stomach. He looked at her, a flicker of surprise in his eyes. "Actually, yes. Sit with me for a moment, Miss Parker. I'd like to hear about your experiences here." Elizabeth hesitated for a fraction of a second before taking the seat next to him. "Of course, sir. What would you like to know?" Alexander took a sip of his drink, his gaze thoughtful. "What drives you, Miss Parker? Why do you put so much effort into your work?" Elizabeth met his gaze, her eyes reflecting her determination. "I believe in the power of exceptional service, Mr. Hayes. Making people feel valued and cared for is what drives me. This hotel is like a second home to me, and I want every guest to feel the same way." For the first time, a hint of a smile touched Alexander's lips. "Your dedication is admirable, Miss Parker. It's employees like you who make this establishment truly exceptional." The conversation continued, and Elizabeth found herself speaking candidly about her journey at the hotel, her dreams, and her motivations. Alexander listened intently, his icy exterior thawing ever so slightly. By the end of the evening, a mutual respect had formed between them. In the days that followed, Alexander's demeanor towards Elizabeth changed. He still maintained his distance, but there was a newfound warmth in his interactions with her. Elizabeth's competence and dedication had made an impression on the air of the Regal Hotel, a feat few had achieved. Their professional relationship became one of subtle understanding, each recognizing the other's strengths and potential. For Elizabeth, this was not just a victory, but a testament to her belief in hard work and sincerity. The enigmatic Alexander Hayes had begun to see the value in Elizabeth Parker, not just as an employee, but as a crucial part of the Regal Hotel's beating heart. And in the grand halls of the hotel, their paths continued to cross, each encounter adding another layer to their evolving story. Elizabeth Parker's rise within the Regal Hotel was nothing short of extraordinary. From her humble beginnings as an intern, she had become an indispensable asset, known for her unwavering dedication and exceptional service. Her journey of climbing the corporate ladder was marked by perseverance and an indomitable spirit. One crisp autumn morning, as Elizabeth was meticulously organizing the guest welcome packages, she was summoned to the general manager's office. Her heart raced as she walked down the elegant corridor, her mind buzzing with anticipation. Mr. Harrison, the general manager, was a stern but fair man, and his summons were rarely trivial. "Elizabeth, please have a seat," Mr. Harrison said as she entered the office. His eyes were kind, but his demeanor remained serious. Elizabeth sat down, clasping her hands in her lap to steady her nerves. "I've been observing your performance over the past year, and it's clear that your contributions to the Regal Hotel have been invaluable," he began. "Your ability to handle difficult situations, your rapport with the guests, and your leadership qualities have not gone unnoticed." Elizabeth's heart swelled with pride. "Thank you, Mr. Harrison. I'm deeply committed to the success of the hotel and the satisfaction of our guests." He nodded. "Which is why I'm pleased to offer you the position of assistant manager. This role will come with more responsibilities, but I have no doubt you are more than capable." For a moment, Elizabeth was speechless. The opportunity was a significant step up, one she had worked tirelessly to achieve. "I am honored, Mr. Harrison. I promise to continue giving my best to the Regal Hotel." With a congratulatory handshake, Elizabeth left the office, her mind racing with excitement and a touch of nervousness. The news spread quickly among the staff, and she was met with warm congratulations from her colleagues. Carla, her closest friend, hugged her tightly. "I knew you'd make it, Liz. This is just the beginning." The new role brought a whirlwind of challenges. Elizabeth found herself juggling numerous tasks, overseeing staff, managing guest relations, and ensuring the smooth operation of the hotel. Each day presented a new obstacle, but Elizabeth faced them all with her characteristic grace and resilience. One particularly hectic afternoon, a major conference being hosted at the hotel hit a snag. The event coordinator had fallen ill, and the meticulously planned schedule was in disarray. Panic rippled through the staff, but Elizabeth remained calm. She swiftly gathered the team and delegated tasks, her clear and confident instructions restoring order. As the conference proceeded without further hitches, Mr. Harrison observed Elizabeth from a distance, his respect for her growing. "Well done, Elizabeth," he remarked later. "Your quick thinking and leadership saved the day." Despite the increased workload, Elizabeth always found time to connect with her team. She believed in leading by example, often rolling up her sleeves to help with even the most menial tasks. Her dedication inspired those around her, fostering a sense of camaraderie and shared purpose. However, not all was smooth sailing. Victor, the head concierge, viewed Elizabeth's promotion with thinly veiled disdain. He had hoped to climb the ranks himself and saw Elizabeth's success as a direct threat. Their interactions were often marked by subtle tension, Victor's every word dripping with barely concealed resentment. "Enjoying your new responsibilities, Parker?" he would say, his smile never reaching his eyes. Elizabeth remained unflappable. "Yes, Victor, thank you for your support." She refused to be drawn into petty rivalries, focusing instead on her goals and the well-being of the hotel. One evening, as Elizabeth was finalizing the day's reports, she received an unexpected visit from Alexander Hayes. He had been observing her progress with interest, recognizing in her the qualities that could take the Regal Hotel to new heights. "Elizabeth, I've heard great things about your work," Alexander began, his demeanor less distant than usual. "Your promotion is well-deserved. I wanted to personally commend you on your efforts." Elizabeth felt a surge of gratitude. "Thank you, Mr. Hayes. I'm committed to maintaining the high standards of the Regal Hotel." He nodded. "I believe in fostering talent and giving people the opportunity to shine. Keep up the excellent work, Elizabeth." As he left, Elizabeth stood for a moment, reflecting on her journey. She had climbed the ladder through sheer determination and hard work, earning the respect of her peers and superiors. Each step brought her closer to her dreams, and she knew that this was only the beginning of her ascent. With a renewed sense of purpose, Elizabeth returned to her work, her heart filled with the promise of the future. She was determined to not only meet but exceed the expectations placed upon her, proving that she was not just a rising star, but a force to be reckoned with at the Regal Hotel. The night of the annual Regal Hotel Gala was always a grand affair, a night where the hotel showcased its splendor to the elite of the city. For Elizabeth Parker, now the assistant manager, it was her first time overseeing such a prestigious event. The air buzzed with excitement as preparations reached a fever pitch, and the hotel glittered with lights and lavish decorations. Elizabeth stood in the grand ballroom, directing the final touches. The chandeliers sparkled above, casting a warm glow over the elegantly set tables adorned with fine china and exquisite floral arrangements. She moved with purpose, her calm demeanor hiding the storm of activity behind the scenes. Carla, bustling by with a tray of champagne glasses, paused to give Elizabeth a quick hug. "You've got this, Liz. The ballroom looks amazing." Elizabeth smiled, feeling a surge of confidence. "Thanks, Carla. Let's make tonight unforgettable." As guests began to arrive, Elizabeth greeted them with her trademark warmth and professionalism. Among the arrivals were city officials, business moguls, and celebrities, each receiving her personalized attention. She made sure every detail was perfect, from the placement of name cards to the seamless coordination of the kitchen staff. Midway through the evening, as Elizabeth was ensuring the head chef had everything he needed, she noticed Alexander Hayes entering the ballroom. He cut a striking figure in his tailored suit, his presence commanding attention. Their eyes met, and he nodded slightly in acknowledgement before being swept up by a group of important guests. Despite the gala's grandeur, the evening was not without its challenges. Just as the main course was being served, Elizabeth received a frantic call from the front desk. A VIP guest, Mr. Anderson, had arrived unexpectedly and was displeased to find his usual suite unavailable due to a booking error. Elizabeth excused herself from the ballroom and hurried to the front desk. Mr. Anderson was pacing angrily, his face flushed with irritation. "This is unacceptable. I always stay in the royal suite, and I expect nothing less." Taking a deep breath, Elizabeth approached him with a calm, reassuring smile. "Mr. Anderson, I deeply apologize for the inconvenience. Please allow me to personally find a solution for you." She quickly arranged for an alternative suite, ensuring it was prepared to the highest standards, complete with a complimentary bottle of his favorite wine and a handwritten note of apology. "Thank you for your patience, Mr. Anderson. I hope you find this suite to your satisfaction." His anger visibly dissipated. Mr. Anderson nodded. "Thank you, Miss Parker. Your attention to detail is appreciated." Returning to the ballroom, Elizabeth was met with the sight of Alexander Hayes observing her from a distance, his expression thoughtful. She couldn't help but wonder what he was thinking, but there was no time to dwell on it as the evening progressed. As the night drew to a close, the final course was served, and the guests began to relax, enjoying the ambience and music. Elizabeth circulated the room, ensuring everything continued to run smoothly. She was speaking with the event planner when Alexander approached. "Miss Parker, may I have a word?" he asked, his tone polite but carrying an undertone of curiosity. "Of course, Mr. Hayes," she replied, following him to a quieter corner of the room. "You handled Mr. Anderson's situation impressively," he began, his piercing blue eyes fixed on her. "It's not easy to manage such high expectations, especially under pressure." Elizabeth felt a flush of pride. "Thank you, Mr. Hayes. It's important to me that every guest feels valued and well cared for." He nodded, a hint of a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "Your dedication is evident. You've not only met but exceeded the expectations we have here at the Regal Hotel." Elizabeth's heart swelled with gratitude. "I'm I'm honored to be part of this team and to contribute to the hotel's success. As the last guests departed and the ballroom began to empty, Elizabeth took a moment to stand in the quiet, her eyes sweeping over the now still elegant space. The gala had been a success, a testament to her hard work and the efforts of her dedicated team. Alexander approached once more, his demeanor less formal than before. You've done an exceptional job tonight, Elizabeth. Your ability to manage and adapt is impressive. Thank you, Mr. Hayes, she replied, her smile genuine. It's been a team effort, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to lead such a fantastic group. He nodded, his gaze lingering on her for a moment longer. I look forward to seeing what else you'll achieve here. Have a good night, Elizabeth. As he walked away, Elizabeth felt a sense of fulfillment and anticipation for the future. The gala had been more than just an event. It was a milestone in her journey, a night where she proved her capabilities and earned the respect of those who mattered most. With the ballroom empty and quiet, Elizabeth finally allowed herself a moment of rest, her heart full of hope and determination for the road ahead. Life at the Regal Hotel was never short of excitement, but the real tests often lay beneath the surface, hidden from the eyes of the guests who wandered its opulent halls. For Elizabeth Parker, the internal challenges were the true measure of her resilience and leadership. It was a quiet morning when the first sign of trouble appeared. Elizabeth was reviewing the weekly reports in her office when Carla burst in, her face flushed with worry. Liz, we have a problem in the kitchen, she said, her voice urgent. Elizabeth immediately stood up, sensing the gravity of the situation. What's going on? The head chef, Mr. DuPont, and his sous chef had a massive argument. It got so heated that Mr. DuPont walked out. He's saying he won't come back until the sous chef is fired. Elizabeth felt a knot tighten in her stomach. The kitchen was the heart of the hotel's dining experience, and a disruption there could spell disaster. She hurried to the kitchen, where the tension was palpable. The staff worked in strained silence, casting anxious glances at the closed office door where the sous chef, Marco, sat looking defeated. Elizabeth took a deep breath and knocked on the door before entering. Marco, can we talk? He looked up, his eyes weary. Miss Parker, I didn't mean for things to get so out of hand. Mr. DuPont and I just don't see eye to eye on some things. Elizabeth listened carefully, understanding that such conflicts often had deep roots. Tell me what happened. Marco explained the ongoing disagreements over menu changes and kitchen management. It was clear that both men had strong visions, but their inability to communicate had led to a breaking point. All right, Marco, Elizabeth said thoughtfully. We need to resolve this for the sake of the team and the guests. I'm going to speak with Mr. DuPont. Stay here and try to calm down. Elizabeth found Mr. DuPont pacing outside the hotel, his face a storm of emotions. Mr. DuPont, may I have a word? He turned, his expression softening slightly at the sight of Elizabeth. Miss Parker, I can't work under these conditions. Marco undermines my authority, and it's impossible to maintain the standards I set. Elizabeth nodded, acknowledging his frustration. I understand your position, Mr. DuPont, but we need to find a way to work through this. The kitchen staff looks up to both of you, and this conflict is affecting everyone. They talked at length, Elizabeth mediating between the strong-willed chef and his equally passionate sous chef. She proposed a series of team-building sessions and clear communication channels to address the root of their conflicts. Slowly, the tension began to ease, and both men agreed to give it another try, with Elizabeth's guidance. However, the kitchen wasn't the only place Elizabeth faced internal challenges. One afternoon, while reviewing staff schedules, she noticed discrepancies in the housekeeping department's logbooks. Supplies were missing, and the inventory numbers didn't add up. Suspicion grew that someone might be misusing resources. Elizabeth discreetly started an investigation, working closely with the security team. After days of careful monitoring, they identified a junior housekeeper, Gina, as the culprit. Elizabeth called Gina into her office, feeling a mix of disappointment and concern. Gina, we've noticed some irregularities in the housekeeping logs, Elizabeth began, her tone gentle but firm. Can you explain what's been happening? Gina's eyes filled with tears. Miss Parker, I'm so sorry. My family has been struggling, and I thought taking a few supplies wouldn't hurt the hotel much. I didn't realize it would get noticed. Elizabeth's heart softened. She knew that while rules had to be upheld, compassion was also important. Gina, I understand that you're in a difficult situation, but taking from the hotel isn't the solution. There are other ways to get help. She offered Gina assistance through the hotel's employee support program, ensuring she received the help she needed while also making it clear that such actions couldn't be tolerated in the future. Gina, relieved and grateful, promised to make amends. The series of internal challenges tested Elizabeth's leadership in ways she hadn't anticipated. Each conflict required not just managerial skills, but empathy and the ability to navigate complex human emotions. Her ability to resolve these issues with fairness and kindness earned her the respect and loyalty of the staff. One evening, as Elizabeth was finishing her shift, Alexander Hayes approached her in the lobby. I've been hearing about your handling of recent issues, he said, his tone appreciative. You've managed to maintain harmony and uphold our standards. Well done. Elizabeth smiled, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment. Thank you, Mr. Hayes. It's important to me that the Regal Hotel remains a place where both guests and staff feel valued. With each internal challenge overcome, Elizabeth's role within the hotel grew stronger. She had proven that she could handle not just the external pressures of the job, but the delicate intricacies of managing a team, solidifying her place as a true leader at the Regal Hotel. Elizabeth Parker's dedication to the Regal Hotel had not gone unnoticed beyond its opulent walls. Her reputation for excellence, problem-solving, and unwavering commitment had reached the ears of competitors. One brisk afternoon, as she was meticulously organizing the next week's event schedule, an unexpected call came through. Elizabeth Parker speaking, she answered, her tone professional. Miss Parker, this is Jonathan Clark, the general manager of the Grand Ascot Hotel. I've heard remarkable things about your work at the Regal. I'd like to discuss an opportunity with you. Would you be available for lunch tomorrow? Surprised, Elizabeth hesitated for a moment. The Grand Ascot was known for its luxurious accommodations and high standards, much like the Regal. I'm honored, Mr. Clark. Yes, I can make time for lunch tomorrow. The following day, Elizabeth arrived at an upscale restaurant where Jonathan Clark was already seated. He was a distinguished man, his demeanor both inviting and authoritative. After exchanging pleasantries, they got to the heart of the matter. Elizabeth, I'll get straight to the point, Jonathan began, leaning forward slightly. We are looking for someone with your skills and experience to join the Grand Ascot as our new director of guest services. Your track record at the Regal is exactly what we need to elevate our guest experience to the next level. Elizabeth's heart raced. The position was a significant step up, offering not just a higher salary but also greater responsibilities and prestige. Yet, her mind immediately drifted to her colleagues, the guests, and the sense of belonging she felt at the Regal. That's a very generous offer, Mr. Clark, she replied carefully, but I have a deep commitment to the Regal Hotel and its team. Leaving them would be a difficult decision. Jonathan nodded, understanding. I respect that, Elizabeth, but I believe your talents could truly shine in this new role. We're prepared to offer a substantial benefits package, including housing and travel allowances, and a significant signing bonus. We'd also give you full autonomy to implement your vision for guest services. Elizabeth felt a wave of temptation wash over her. The offer was undeniably attractive, presenting opportunities she had dreamed of. However, her thoughts kept returning to the Regal, to the guests she greeted daily, the staff she supported, and the challenges she had overcome. The hotel had become a part of her, and she a part of it. I appreciate the offer, Mr. Clark, truly, she said after a pause, but I need some time to consider it. This is not a decision I can make lightly. Of course, take all the time you need, Jonathan replied, handing her his business card. I look forward to hearing from you soon. Returning to the Regal, Elizabeth was greeted by Carla, who noticed the contemplative look on her face. What's up, Liz? You seem preoccupied. Elizabeth hesitated, then decided to share. I received a job offer from the Grand Ascot. They want me to be their new director of guest services. Carla's eyes widened. Wow, that's huge. What are you going to do? I'm not sure yet. It's a fantastic opportunity, but leaving the Regal, it's not an easy choice. As the days passed, Elizabeth wrestled with her decision. She found herself reflecting on her journey at the Regal Hotel, the bonds she had formed, and the sense of purpose her role gave her. One evening, while reviewing some reports, Mr. Harrison, the general manager, stopped by her office. Elizabeth, may I have a word? He asked, his tone as always, kind but firm. Of course, Mr. Harrison, she replied, inviting him in. I've heard rumors about the offer from the Grand Ascot, he began, his expression serious. I want you to know that we value you immensely here at the Regal. Your dedication and hard work have been instrumental to our success. Elizabeth nodded, feeling a lump form in her throat. Thank you, Mr. Harrison. This place means a lot to me. He smiled warmly. We'd hate to lose you, but I understand you need to make the best decision for your career. Just know that you have a home here, no matter what you decide. That night, Elizabeth took a long walk around the hotel grounds, the cool air clearing her mind. She thought of the guests who had become like family, the colleagues who supported her through thick and thin, and the countless moments of pride and satisfaction in her work. In the end, it wasn't just about career advancement or financial gain. It was about where she felt she could make the most meaningful impact, where her heart truly belonged. The next morning, Elizabeth picked up the phone and dialed Jonathan Clark's number. Mr. Clark, thank you for the incredible offer. After much consideration, I've decided to stay with the Regal Hotel. This place is more than just a job to me. It's where I believe I can make the greatest difference. Jonathan's disappointment was palpable, but he responded graciously. I respect your decision, Elizabeth. The Regal is lucky to have you. As she hung up, Elizabeth felt a sense of peace. She knew she had made the right choice, With renewed determination, she threw herself back into her work, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, knowing she was exactly where she was meant to be. Elizabeth Parker had grown accustomed to the distant and often stoic demeanor of Alexander Hayes, the heir to the Regal Hotel. Despite his initial aloofness, she had earned his respect through her unwavering dedication and impeccable service. However, it wasn't until a particularly challenging evening that Elizabeth saw a different side of him, a side that revealed the complexities behind his cool exterior. It was a rainy Thursday evening, and the hotel was hosting a high-profile charity event in its grand ballroom. The event was crucial for the hotel's reputation, bringing together influential figures from various sectors. Elizabeth was overseeing the proceedings, ensuring that every detail was perfect. The rain outside was relentless, and the guests arrived with dripping umbrellas and dampened spirits, adding to the evening's tension. Just as the event was reaching its peak, Elizabeth received an urgent call from the front desk. A young couple had arrived unexpectedly, seeking refuge from the storm. They were drenched and clearly distressed. Without hesitation, Elizabeth excused herself from the ballroom and made her way to the lobby. The couple stood near the entrance, the young woman shivering in her soaked dress, her partner holding her protectively. Elizabeth approached them with her usual calm and reassuring demeanor. "Welcome to the Regal Hotel. How can I assist you tonight?" The young man looked at her with desperate eyes. "We were caught in the storm, and our car broke down. We don't have a reservation, but we need a place to stay for the night." Elizabeth quickly assessed the situation. The hotel was fully booked due to the event, and finding a room on such short notice seemed impossible. But she couldn't turn them away. "Please, come with me," she said, guiding them to a quieter corner of the lobby. As she was trying to figure out a solution, Alexander Hayes walked in, having just finished a meeting with some key donors. His sharp eyes took in the scene, and he approached Elizabeth. "What's going on here, Miss Parker?" he asked, his tone neutral but curious. Elizabeth explained the situation, expecting perhaps a directive to turn them away due to the hotel's full capacity. Instead, Alexander's expression softened almost imperceptibly. "Follow me," he said, leading the way to the elevator. Elizabeth and the couple followed Alexander to the top floor. He stopped in front of a door and unlocked it, revealing a luxurious suite. "You can stay here for the night," he said, handing the key to the young man. The couple stared in disbelief. "But this is the executive suite," the young man protested. "We can't possibly afford this." Alexander shook his head. "Tonight, it's on the house. Just make yourselves comfortable and let the staff know if you need anything." Elizabeth watched as the couple expressed their heartfelt gratitude, their relief palpable. After ensuring they were settled, she stepped back into the hallway with Alexander. "Thank you, Mr. Hayes. That was incredibly generous of you," Elizabeth said, her voice filled with genuine admiration. Alexander shrugged, a hint of a smile playing on his lips. "Sometimes it's the right thing to do. Besides, the executive suite was vacant tonight. No harm done." As they made their way back to the event, Elizabeth found herself looking at Alexander in a new light. His act of kindness, so unexpected yet deeply impactful, revealed a complexity she hadn't seen before. He wasn't just the distant heir or the demanding boss. He was capable of great compassion and understanding. Throughout the remainder of the evening, Elizabeth couldn't shake the feeling of gratitude and respect that had blossomed for Alexander. Their professional relationship had always been built on mutual respect, but now she felt a deeper connection, a shared understanding of the importance of kindness and humanity in their roles. The charity event concluded successfully, and the guests departed, praising the Regal Hotel for its impeccable service. As Elizabeth oversaw the final details, she glanced over to see Alexander speaking with some of the event's organizers. Their eyes met briefly, and he gave her a subtle nod of acknowledgement. That night, as Elizabeth reflected on the day's events, she felt a renewed sense of purpose and a deeper appreciation for the people she worked with. Alexander Hayes' unexpected act of kindness had shown her that even in the most challenging of environments, there was room for compassion and understanding. And in the grand halls of the Regal Hotel, Elizabeth knew she was part of something truly special, a place where excellence and empathy walked hand in hand. Elizabeth Parker's life at the Regal Hotel was filled with professional triumphs and personal growth, but love had always been a distant prospect. Her focus had been on her career and the well-being of her guests. Yet, as fate would have it, love often blooms in the most unexpected places. It was a brisk winter evening, and the hotel was hosting a private art exhibition for a renowned artist. The grand ballroom was transformed into a gallery, with exquisite paintings adorning the walls and soft classical music filling the air. Elizabeth, as usual, was in the thick of things, ensuring everything ran smoothly. Alexander Hayes, the enigmatic heir to the the Regal Hotel, was also present, mingling with the high-profile guests. His presence was both commanding and elegant, but his usual aloofness had started to give way to more frequent, meaningful interactions with Elizabeth. As the evening progressed, Elizabeth found herself momentarily free from her duties. She wandered through the exhibition, admiring the artwork. She paused in front of a particularly striking painting, lost in thought. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" a familiar voice said, breaking her reverie. Elizabeth turned to find Alexander standing beside her, his eyes also on the painting. "It is," she agreed. "The colors, the emotion, it's captivating." They stood in silence for a moment, appreciating the art. Then Alexander turned his gaze to her. "Elizabeth, I've been meaning to talk to you about something," he said, his tone uncharacteristically hesitant. She looked at him, curious. "What is it, Mr. Hayes?" He took a deep breath, his usual confidence wavering slightly. "Please call me Alexander. We've known each other long enough for that, don't you think?" Elizabeth smiled softly. "All right, Alexander. What did you want to talk about?" He hesitated, as if choosing his words carefully. "I've been thinking about how much you've done for this hotel, and how much I admire your dedication and kindness. It's rare to find someone who cares as deeply as you do." Elizabeth felt a warmth spread through her at his words. "Thank you, Alexander. That means a lot coming from you." He took a step closer, his eyes searching hers. "There's more. I've also realized that I enjoy spending time with you, more than just professionally. I find myself looking forward to our conversations, to seeing you each day." Elizabeth's heart skipped a beat. Was this really happening? "I feel the same way," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've always respected you, but lately, it's become more than that." A slow smile spread across Alexander's face, the usual guardedness in his expression giving way to genuine warmth. "I'm glad to hear that. I was hoping we could get to know each other better, outside of work. Perhaps dinner sometime." Elizabeth's mind raced. The thought of spending time with Alexander in a different context was both thrilling and nerve-wracking, but her heart knew the answer. "I'd like that very much," she said, smiling. Over the next few weeks, Elizabeth and Alexander found moments to steal away from the hotel's bustling life. They dined at cozy restaurants, took walks in the nearby park, and discovered shared interests that deepened their connection. Alexander, once a distant and enigmatic figure, revealed layers of warmth, humor, and vulnerability that Elizabeth found irresistible. Their relationship blossomed quietly, away from the prying eyes of the hotel staff and guests. They supported each other through the challenges at work, finding solace in their growing bond. Alexander's confidence and vision complemented Elizabeth's empathy and dedication, making them a formidable team. One evening, after a particularly hectic day, they found themselves alone in the hotel's rooftop garden. The city lights sparkled below them, and the air was filled with the scent of blooming flowers. Alexander took Elizabeth's hand, his touch gentle but firm. "Elizabeth, these past few weeks have been incredible," he said softly. "You've brought a light into my life that I didn't realize I was missing." She squeezed his hand, her heart swelling with affection. "And you've shown me a side of you that I never imagined. I'm grateful for every moment we've shared." He pulled her closer, his eyes locking onto hers. "I want us to continue this journey together, wherever it may lead. Will you be with me, Elizabeth?" Tears of happiness filled her eyes as she nodded. "Yes, Alexander. I want nothing more." Their lips met in a tender, heartfelt kiss, sealing their commitment to each other. In the quiet sanctuary of the rooftop garden, surrounded by the twinkling city lights, Elizabeth and Alexander's love story began, promising a future filled with love, partnership, and endless possibilities. As they stood there, wrapped in each other's arms, Elizabeth knew that this unexpected romance was the beginning of a new chapter in her life, one that she welcomed with an open heart and unwavering hope. Elizabeth Parker had always prided herself on her integrity and dedication to her work. However, even the most steadfast individuals face moments of moral testing. One such moment arrived unexpectedly, throwing Elizabeth into an ethical dilemma that would challenge her principles and the very core of her character. It was a sunny afternoon when Elizabeth was summoned to Mr. Harrison's office. As the general manager, Mr. Harrison had always been a fair and supportive leader, and his serious tone on the phone had piqued Elizabeth's curiosity and concern. "Please have a seat, Elizabeth," Mr. Harrison began, his expression grave. "We have a situation that requires your discretion and judgment." Elizabeth nodded, her heart pounding. "What's the issue, Mr. Harrison?" He handed her a file, and as Elizabeth skimmed through the documents, her eyes widened in shock. It contained evidence of financial discrepancies, large sums of money funneled through various accounts, pointing to embezzlement by one of the hotel's senior staff members, Victor, the head concierge. "Victor has been with us for years," Mr. Harrison continued. "He's been a valuable employee, but these documents suggest otherwise. We need to handle this delicately." Elizabeth felt a mix of emotions. Victor had always been a rival, often undercutting her efforts, but this went beyond professional rivalry. "What do you need me to do?" she asked, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "We need concrete evidence before we confront him. I need you to monitor his activities closely, gather any additional proof, and report back to me," Mr. Harrison said. "This must be done discreetly. We can't afford a scandal." Elizabeth nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. Over Over the next few days, she discreetly observed Victor, documenting his interactions and activities. It was a delicate balance, maintaining her usual duties while investigating a colleague. One evening, as Elizabeth was wrapping up her shift, she noticed Victor leaving the hotel with a briefcase. Her instincts told her to follow him. She trailed him to a quiet cafe, where he met with a man she didn't recognize. Their conversation seemed tense, and Elizabeth managed to snap a few photos and record snippets of their discussion. Later that night, she reviewed the evidence. The recordings hinted at the financial misconduct, but nothing concrete enough to confront Victor. Frustrated, Elizabeth decided to dig deeper, combing through hotel records and financial statements in her free time. As she delved further into the investigation, Elizabeth found herself questioning her own motives. Victor had always been difficult, but was she pursuing this out of a sense of justice or personal vindication? The ethical dilemma gnawed at her, challenging her sense of right and wrong. A few days later, Elizabeth's hard work paid off. She discovered a series of emails between Victor and an external account, detailing the embezzlement scheme. The evidence was undeniable. Armed with this proof, she went to Mr. Harrison. "This is everything I found," Elizabeth said, handing over the file. "It's clear that Victor has been diverting funds for personal gain." Mr. Harrison reviewed the documents, his expression growing darker with each passing moment. "This is serious. We need to address this immediately." Together, they confronted Victor the next day. He was caught off guard, his usual confident demeanor crumbling as he realized the extent of their knowledge. I can explain," he stammered, but the evidence was overwhelming. Mr. Harrison sighed, disappointment evident in his eyes. "Victor, we trusted you. This hotel is built on integrity, and your actions have betrayed that trust. We have no choice but to terminate your employment and report this to the authorities." As security escorted Victor out, Elizabeth felt a mix of relief and sadness. She had upheld her principles, but the cost had been high. The experience had shaken her, forcing her to confront the complexities of morality and justice. In the aftermath, Mr. Harrison called Elizabeth into his office once more. "You handled this situation with great integrity and diligence, Elizabeth. Your commitment to doing what's right, even when it's difficult, is commendable." Elizabeth nodded, a weight lifting off her shoulders. "Thank you, Mr. Harrison. It was a difficult decision, but I knew it had to be done." He smiled warmly. "And that's why you're such a valuable part of this team. The Regal Hotel is better because of people like you." As she left his office, Elizabeth reflected on the ordeal. The ethical dilemma had tested her resolve, but it had also reaffirmed her dedication to her values. She knew that the road ahead would have its challenges, but she was prepared to face them with the same unwavering integrity that had guided her through this trial. With a renewed sense of purpose, Elizabeth returned to her duties, ready to continue making the Regal Hotel a place of excellence and honesty. She had navigated the storm and emerged stronger, her principles intact and her spirit unbroken. Elizabeth Parker had always balanced her demanding job at the Regal Hotel with her personal life. However, life has a way of throwing unexpected challenges, and Elizabeth was about to face a family crisis that would test her in ways she never anticipated. It was a quiet Saturday morning when Elizabeth received a phone call from her younger sister, Emily. Elizabeth was in her office, reviewing the guest feedback forms from the previous week. She answered the call, her heart warming at the sight of Emily's name on the screen. "Hey, Em, how are you?" Elizabeth greeted cheerfully. "Elizabeth." Emily's voice was shaky, and Elizabeth immediately sensed something was wrong. "Mom's in the hospital. She had a fall and broke her hip. They're taking her into surgery now." Elizabeth's heart sank. "Oh my God, is she going to be okay? Which hospital are you at?" "St. Mary's. They said she'll need a few weeks to recover, but they're hopeful she'll be fine." "I just thought you should know," Emily replied, her voice trembling. "I'll be there as soon as I can," Elizabeth said, already gathering her things. She notified Mr. Harrison about the emergency and rushed to the hospital, her mind racing with worry. At the hospital, Elizabeth found Emily and their older brother, David, in the waiting room. Emily's eyes were red from crying, and David looked grim. Elizabeth hugged them both tightly. "How's Mom?" she asked, her voice filled with concern. "She's in surgery now," David said. "The doctors said it's a routine procedure, but with her age, it's still risky." They sat in tense silence, waiting for news. Elizabeth's thoughts were a whirlwind of worry and guilt. She had been so consumed with her work at the hotel that she hadn't visited her family as often as she should have. Hours later, the surgeon came out with reassuring news. The surgery went well. She's in recovery now, but she'll need physical therapy and constant care for the next few weeks. Relieved but knowing the road ahead would be challenging, Elizabeth took a deep breath. "Thank you, doctor." As their mother began her recovery, Elizabeth juggled her responsibilities at the hotel and the hospital visits. She coordinated with her siblings to ensure someone was always with their mother. The stress was immense, but Elizabeth remained strong for her family. One evening, after a long day at the hotel and a visit to the hospital, Elizabeth returned to her apartment, exhausted. She sank into her couch, feeling the weight of the world on her shoulders. Just as she was about to close her eyes, her phone buzzed. It was Alexander. "Hey, Elizabeth, how are you holding up?" he asked, his voice filled with genuine concern. "I'm managing," she replied, trying to sound more upbeat than she felt. "It's just been a lot lately. Is there anything I can do to help?" he offered. Elizabeth hesitated. She wasn't used to leaning on others, but the sincerity in Alexander's voice was comforting. "Honestly, I could use some advice on balancing everything. It's been hard keeping up with work and family." "Let's have dinner tomorrow," Alexander suggested. "We can talk it through and maybe find some solutions." The next evening, they met at a cozy restaurant near the hotel. Over dinner, Elizabeth shared her struggles, and Alexander listened intently. He offered practical advice and reassured her that it was okay to ask for help. "You don't have to do everything alone, Elizabeth. You have people who care about you and want to support you," Alexander said gently, his hand covering hers. Their conversation was a turning point for Elizabeth. She realized that she didn't have to shoulder all the burdens alone. With Alexander's encouragement, she spoke to Mr. Harrison about her situation. Understanding and supportive, he adjusted her schedule to allow more flexibility. Elizabeth also reached out to her colleagues, delegating tasks and trusting them to handle the responsibilities she usually managed. To her relief, they rose to the occasion, showing their loyalty and respect for her leadership. At home, Elizabeth spent quality time with her mother, helping her through physical therapy sessions and sharing moments of laughter and love. The bond between them grew stronger, and Elizabeth found solace in being there for her family. Through it all, Alexander remained a constant source of support. Their relationship deepened as they navigated this challenging time together. He stood by her, offering not just advice but also a comforting presence that made the burdens feel lighter. As weeks turned into months, Elizabeth's mother made a remarkable recovery. The family crisis had brought them closer, and Elizabeth emerged stronger, more resilient, and with a deeper appreciation for the balance between her professional ambitions and personal life. One evening, as she sat with her family in their living room, Elizabeth felt a profound sense of gratitude. She had faced one of the toughest periods of her life and come through it with the support of her loved ones and colleagues. Elizabeth knew that challenges would always come, but she was ready to face them with the strength and love of those around her. And as she returned to the Regal Hotel, she carried with her the lessons of compassion, resilience, and the importance of leaning on others in times of need. The Regal Hotel was renowned for its impeccable service and flawless reputation, but even the most prestigious establishments can face unforeseen challenges. For Elizabeth Parker, a crisis at the hotel became a defining moment, testing her leadership and resolve like never before. Started as an ordinary day, Elizabeth was overseeing the morning operations, ensuring that the transition between shifts was smooth and that the guests were well taken care of. The hotel was bustling with activity as a high-profile business conference was in full swing, bringing in influential figures from around the world. Around midday, an alarm pierced the air, followed by a sudden power outage. The grand lobby, usually bathed in elegant light, was plunged into darkness. Guests and staff alike froze, uncertainty and fear rippling through the crowd. Elizabeth immediately took charge, her voice calm and authoritative. "Everyone, please remain calm. We have backup generators that will kick in shortly. Staff, assist the guests and guide them to the nearest exits or safe areas." The emergency lights flickered on, casting a dim glow that helped restore a semblance of order. Elizabeth quickly made her way to the control room, where she found Mr. Harrison and the head of maintenance, both looking tense. "What happened?" Elizabeth asked, her mind racing. Mr. Harrison sighed. "A major power surge knocked out our systems, and the backup generators are struggling to keep up. We're also getting reports of electrical malfunctions in several key areas." Elizabeth knew this was more than just an inconvenience. It was a full-blown crisis. The hotel's reputation was at stake, and the safety of the guests was paramount. "We need to address this immediately. I'll coordinate with the staff and ensure the guests are safe and informed." She moved through the hotel with purpose, directing the staff to assist with the evacuation of guests from the upper floors where the elevators were out of service. The conference attendees were relocated to a nearby venue, and Elizabeth personally reassured each guest, her calm demeanor instilling confidence despite the chaos. In the midst of the turmoil, Elizabeth received a call from the kitchen. The power outage had caused the refrigeration units to fail, jeopardizing the perishable food supplies. Without hesitation, she organized a team to transfer the most vulnerable items to nearby restaurants and catering services that offered their facilities for temporary storage. As the day wore on, Elizabeth coordinated with electricians and city officials to restore full power to the hotel. She communicated constantly with Mr. Harrison and the rest of the management team, ensuring that every step was taken to mitigate the impact of the outage. By late evening, power was finally restored. The lights flickered back to life, and a collective sigh of relief swept through the hotel. But Elizabeth's work was far from over. She immediately initiated a thorough inspection of all systems to ensure there were no lingering issues and organized a meeting with the staff to debrief and prepare for any similar incidents in the future. Exhausted but determined, Elizabeth then turned her attention to the guests. She coordinated with the concierge team to offer complimentary services and special accommodations as a gesture of goodwill for the inconvenience caused. Personalized notes of apology were sent to each guest, along with offers of complimentary future stays. The next morning, the hotel was back to its usual bustling self, but the events of the previous day had left their mark. Elizabeth stood in the lobby, watching as guests went about their day, reassured and smiling once more. She felt a deep sense of pride in her team and their ability to come together in the face of adversity. Later that day, Alexander Hayes sought her out. "Elizabeth," he said, his tone filled with admiration, "the way you handled the crisis was extraordinary. Your leadership and quick thinking kept everything from spiraling out of control." Elizabeth smiled, feeling a wave of relief. "Thank you, Alexander. It was a team effort. Everyone played their part." He nodded. "Yes, but it was your direction that made it all come together. The Regal Hotel is lucky to have you." As she reflected on the crisis, Elizabeth realized that it had been a turning point. It had tested her limits, but it had also showcased her strengths. She knew that the experience had made her a better leader, more resilient and resourceful than ever before. In the days that followed, the hotel received numerous messages of gratitude from the guests, praising the staff's professionalism and Elizabeth's exceptional leadership. The crisis had been a challenge, but it had also been an opportunity to shine, to prove that even in the face of adversity, the Regal Hotel could maintain its standard of excellence. Elizabeth knew that there would always be challenges ahead, but she felt ready to face them, confident in her abilities and the strength of the team around her. The crisis had brought them closer, united by a shared experience that would make them stronger for whatever the future might hold. The whirlwind of daily responsibilities at the Regal Hotel had become a comforting rhythm for Elizabeth Parker. Her bond with Alexander Hayes had deepened, not just professionally but personally. However, despite their growing closeness, Alexander remained an enigma, guarded about his past. It wasn't until one quiet evening that Elizabeth learned the truth behind his mysterious demeanor. It was late, and the hotel was winding down after another busy day. Elizabeth had just finished her evening rounds, ensuring everything was in order for the night shift. She was about to head home when she noticed the light still on in Alexander's office. Curiosity piqued. She made her way to the office and knocked gently on the door. "Come in," came Alexander's familiar voice. Elizabeth entered to find Alexander sitting at his desk, papers strewn about and a distant look in his eyes. "You're working late," she remarked, offering him a warm smile. Alexander looked up, a faint smile touching his lips. "So are you," he replied. "I guess we both have a hard time calling it a day." She sat down across from him, sensing his unusual somberness. "Is everything all right, Alexander? You seem preoccupied," he sighed, leaning back in his chair. "There's something I've been meaning to tell you, Elizabeth. Something I've kept to myself for a long time." Elizabeth felt a knot of anticipation tighten in her stomach. "You can tell me anything," she said softly, reaching out to touch his hand reassuringly. Alexander took a deep breath, as if gathering the strength to unburden himself. "It's about my family, my father specifically. He was a brilliant businessman, but he was also deeply flawed. Growing up, I admired him, wanted to be like him. But as I got older, I saw the darker side of his ambition." Elizabeth listened intently, her heart aching for the pain she saw in his eyes. "My father was ruthless," Alexander continued, his voice tinged with bitterness. "He built this hotel empire through sheer willpower, but he did it at the expense of others. He manipulated, deceived, and destroyed anyone who stood in his way. And he expected me to follow in his footsteps." Alexander's gaze dropped to his hands, which were clenched tightly on the desk. "I tried to live up to his expectations, to be the son he wanted. But the more I learned about his methods, the more disillusioned I became. I didn't want to be like him. I wanted to succeed, but not at the cost of my integrity." Elizabeth squeezed his hand gently. "You're not like him, Alexander. You're your own person, and you've proven that time and time again." He looked up, gratitude and vulnerability in his eyes. "Thank you, Elizabeth. That means more to me than you know. After my father's death, I vowed to run the hotel differently. To honor his achievements, yes, but also to build a legacy that I could be proud of. One based on respect and integrity." Elizabeth felt a deep admiration for Alexander, understanding now the heavy burden he carried. "You've done an incredible job, Alexander. The Regal Hotel is a testament to your vision and leadership." He smiled, a genuine warmth returning to his expression. "I couldn't have done it without you, Elizabeth. You've been a constant source of support and inspiration. You've shown me that it's possible to be strong and compassionate, to lead with both heart and mind." Their eyes met, and in that moment, Elizabeth saw the depth of Alexander's sincerity. She felt an overwhelming sense of connection, a bond forged through shared values and mutual respect. "Thank you for trusting me with this, Alexander," she said softly. "I'm honored to be part of your journey." He nodded, a weight seemingly lifted from his shoulders. I'm glad I finally shared it with you. Feels like a new beginning. As they sat together in the quiet office, the bond between them grew stronger. Elizabeth knew that Alexander's revelation was a turning point, not just for their relationship, but for the future of the Regal Hotel. Together, they would continue to build a legacy that honored integrity, compassion, and excellence. The night had grown late, but neither felt the need to leave. They sat in comfortable silence, two souls united by a shared vision and an unspoken promise to face the future together. And in that moment, Elizabeth felt a profound sense of peace, knowing that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them side by side. Elizabeth Parker's role at the Regal Hotel had grown immensely fulfilling, both professionally and personally. Her relationship with Alexander Hayes had blossomed into something beautiful, adding a layer of joy and support to her demanding career. But life often presents tough decisions, and Elizabeth was about to face one that would test her resolve and priorities. It was a crisp autumn morning when Elizabeth received an email that made her heart skip a beat. She was being offered a prestigious position as general manager at a luxury hotel chain in Europe. The offer came with an impressive salary, extensive benefits, and the chance to oversee multiple properties. It was an opportunity that many in the hospitality industry only dreamed of. Elizabeth stared at the screen, her mind racing. This was a significant leap in her career, a chance to prove herself on a global stage. But it also meant leaving the Regal Hotel, the place that had become her second home, and possibly jeopardizing her relationship with Alexander. Throughout the day, Elizabeth struggled to focus. She knew she needed to discuss the offer with Alexander, but the thought of it filled her with dread. That evening, she invited him to her apartment, deciding it was best to talk in a comfortable, private setting. Alexander arrived, and they shared a quiet dinner, the unspoken tension hanging in the air. Finally, Elizabeth took a deep breath and broke the silence. Alexander, I need to talk to you about something important. He looked at her, concern evident in his eyes. What is it, Elizabeth? You can tell me anything. She handed him her phone, showing the email with the job offer. I received this today. It's a job offer from a major hotel chain in Europe. They want me to be their general manager. Alexander read the email carefully, his expression unreadable. When he looked up, his eyes were filled with a mix of pride and worry. Elizabeth, this is an incredible opportunity. You've worked so hard, and you deserve this. Elizabeth felt a lump in her throat. But it means leaving the Regal Hotel and leaving you. He reached out, taking her hand in his. Elizabeth, I won't lie. The thought of you leaving is painful, but I also know how important your career is to you. You've always been ambitious and driven. I can't stand in the way of your dreams. Tears welled up in Elizabeth's eyes. But what about us, Alexander? I don't want to lose what we have. He squeezed her hand gently. We'll find a way to make it work. Long-distance relationships are challenging, but they're not impossible. What matters is that we support each other's goals. They talked late into the night, discussing the logistics and potential challenges of maintaining their relationship across continents. Alexander's unwavering support gave Elizabeth a sense of hope, but the decision still weighed heavily on her heart. The next few days were a whirlwind of emotions. Elizabeth spoke with Mr. Harrison and her colleagues, seeking their advice and weighing the pros and cons. She spent long hours reflecting on her future, torn between her career aspirations and her love for the Regal Hotel and Alexander. One evening, as she stood on the rooftop garden of the hotel, gazing at the city lights, Alexander joined her. Have you made a decision? He asked softly. Elizabeth nodded, her eyes meeting his. I have. This opportunity is a dream come true, but I realized that my happiness isn't just about professional success. It's about the people I care about and the life I've built here. I'm staying, Alexander. I don't want to leave you or the Regal Hotel. Relief and joy washed over Alexander's face. He pulled her into a tight embrace, whispering, I'm so glad you're staying, Elizabeth. Together, we'll continue to make this place extraordinary. As they stood there, wrapped in each other's arms, Elizabeth felt a profound sense of peace. She knew that her decision was the right one for her heart. The Regal Hotel had given her a place to grow, both professionally and personally, and her relationship with Alexander had become an irreplaceable part of her life. With renewed determination, Elizabeth looked to the future, ready to take on new challenges and create even more beautiful memories at the Regal Hotel. She had chosen love and community over ambition alone, understanding that true fulfillment came from a balance of both. In the grand halls of the Regal Hotel, Elizabeth continued to shine, her journey enriched by the love and support of those around her. And as she walked hand in hand with Alexander, she knew that together, they could face whatever the future held. Elizabeth Parker's decision to stay at the Regal Hotel had brought her immense joy and a sense of fulfillment. Her relationship with Alexander Hayes flourished, and together, they continued to elevate the hotel's reputation. But life has a way of testing even the strongest bonds, and Elizabeth was about to face a challenge that would require a grand sacrifice. It was a chilly winter morning when Elizabeth received a frantic call from Mr. Harrison. "Elizabeth, we have a situation. The hotel's finances are in jeopardy. There's been a major investment that went south, and we're facing a significant shortfall." Elizabeth's heart sank. "How did this happen? I thought we were on solid ground." "One of our major investors pulled out unexpectedly, and we've been hit with unexpected expenses," Mr. Harrison explained. "If we don't find a way to cover this, we might have to make some drastic cuts, including laying off staff." Elizabeth felt a surge of determination. "We can't let that happen. I'll figure something out." She spent the next few days immersed in the hotel's financial records, searching for a solution. The numbers were daunting, and the pressure was immense. The thought of loyal staff members losing their jobs weighed heavily on her mind. One evening, as Elizabeth pored over the financial statements in her office, Alexander walked in. He had been in meetings all day and looked equally exhausted. "Elizabeth, you need to take a break. You've been at this for hours." "I can't, Alexander," she replied, her voice strained. "If we don't find a way to fix this, people will lose their jobs. The hotel's future is at stake." Alexander sat down beside her, taking her hand in his. "We'll find a way together, but you need to take care of yourself too." As they discussed potential solutions, an idea began to form in Elizabeth's mind. It was a bold and risky move, but it might just be what they needed. "Alexander, what if we hosted a grand charity gala? Something spectacular that would draw in our most influential guests and potential investors. We could use the proceeds to cover the shortfall and secure new investments." Alexander considered her proposal. "It's a brilliant idea, Elizabeth, but organizing such an event on short notice will be incredibly challenging." "I know," she said, determination shining in her eyes, "but I believe we can do it. We have to." With Alexander's support, Elizabeth mobilized the entire staff. Invitations were sent out to the city's elite. The ballroom was transformed into a glittering wonderland, and the best chefs were brought in to create an unforgettable dining experience. Every detail had to be perfect to ensure the success of the event. The night of the gala arrived, and the atmosphere was electric with anticipation. Elizabeth, dressed in an elegant evening gown, moved through the crowd, greeting guests and ensuring everything ran smoothly. Alexander was by her side, his presence a comforting and steadying force. As the evening progressed, the guests were treated to exquisite food, captivating performances, and heartfelt speeches about the importance of the Regal Hotel to the community. Elizabeth watched anxiously as the auction items were presented, hoping they would generate the funds needed to save the hotel. Halfway through the event, Alexander took the stage. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight. Your support means the world to us. The Regal Hotel has always been more than just a place to stay. It's a community, a family. Tonight, we ask for your help to ensure its future." The response was overwhelming. Guests bid generously on the auction items, and many pledged additional donations. Elizabeth felt tears of relief and gratitude welling up as the totals were announced. They had reached their goal. As the gala drew to a close, Elizabeth and Alexander stood together, taking in the success of the evening. "We did it," Elizabeth whispered, her voice filled with emotion. "We saved the hotel." Alexander pulled her into an embrace, his eyes shining with pride. "No, Elizabeth, you did it. Your determination and vision made this possible." In the days that followed, the funds raised from the gala stabilized the hotel's finances, and new investments flowed in, ensuring the Regal Hotel's continued success. The staff, grateful and inspired, rallied behind Elizabeth, their respect for her unwavering. Elizabeth had made a grand sacrifice, pouring her heart and soul into saving the place she loved. And in doing so, she had not only secured the future of the Regal Hotel, but had also strengthened the bonds with the people who made it special. As she stood in the lobby, watching guests come and go, Elizabeth felt a profound sense of accomplishment. She had faced one of the toughest challenges of her career and emerged victorious, not through personal gain but through the power of community and determination. With Alexander by her side, Elizabeth knew they could face any obstacle. Together, they would continue to build a legacy of excellence, compassion, and unwavering dedication at the Regal Hotel. The Grand Gala had been a resounding success, securing the future of the Regal Hotel and solidifying Elizabeth Parker's reputation as an extraordinary leader. As the weeks passed, the hotel thrived under her and Alexander Hayes' stewardship. The bond between them deepened, becoming a source of strength and inspiration. But as life began to settle into a new normal, Elizabeth realized there was one final chapter to her journey at the Regal Hotel, finding a balance between her professional ambitions and personal happiness. It was a bright spring morning morning when Elizabeth woke up with a sense of clarity and determination. She looked at the sleeping form of Alexander beside her and smiled, feeling a wave of contentment. Today was the day she would take the final step in merging her two worlds, ensuring that her career and personal life were harmoniously intertwined. After a busy morning overseeing hotel operations, Elizabeth arranged a meeting with Mr. Harrison and the senior management team. As they gathered in the conference room, she felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. "Thank you all for coming," Elizabeth began, her voice steady. "I have something important to discuss. Over the past few months, we've faced numerous challenges and achieved incredible successes. But through it all, I've realized the importance of having a strong, cohesive leadership team. To that end, I'd like to propose a restructuring that will not only streamline our operations, but also allow for more balanced roles for everyone, including myself." She outlined her plan, which involved promoting key team members to new leadership positions and delegating some of her responsibilities. This would allow her to focus on strategic initiatives while ensuring that the day-to-day operations ran smoothly. The team responded positively, appreciating her foresight and willingness to empower others. Mr. Harrison, who had been a mentor and guide, nodded approvingly. "Elizabeth, your vision for the future of this hotel is inspiring. This restructuring will strengthen our team and allow us to continue delivering exceptional service." With the new leadership structure in place, Elizabeth felt a weight lift off her shoulders. She had built a team she trusted, capable of handling the hotel's demands, allowing her to step back and focus on the bigger picture. That evening, she and Alexander celebrated the successful implementation of the new plan. They dined at a cozy restaurant, their conversation filled with laughter and dreams for the future. "Elizabeth, you've transformed this hotel," Alexander said, his eyes shining with admiration. "But what you've done goes beyond that. You've created a community, a family." Elizabeth reached across the table, taking his hand. "I couldn't have done it without you, Alexander. Your support has been my anchor." He smiled, his gaze filled with love. "I have a surprise for you," he said, pulling out a small, elegantly wrapped box. Elizabeth opened it to find a beautiful necklace, a delicate silver chain with a heart-shaped pendant. "It's stunning," she whispered, tears of joy welling up in her eyes. "It's a symbol of my love and commitment to you," Alexander said softly. "You've given so much of yourself to the hotel and to us. I want you to know how much you mean to me." Moved by his words and the thoughtful gift, Elizabeth felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She had found success in her career, but more importantly, she had found love and a partner who cherished her. The next day, as she walked through the hotel, Elizabeth noticed the positive energy among the staff. The new leadership structure had invigorated them, and the guests were happier than ever. The Regal Hotel was thriving, a testament to the power of collaboration and shared vision. As she stood in the grand lobby, watching guests check in and out, Elizabeth felt a profound sense of peace. She had achieved her dreams, not through personal ambition alone, but through building strong relationships and fostering a supportive community. Later, she and Alexander took a walk through the city park, the cherry blossoms in full bloom. They talked about their plans, both personal and professional, and the future they wanted to build together. "Elizabeth," Alexander said, stopping under a blooming tree, "there's one more thing I need to ask you." She turned to him, her heart fluttering. "What is it?" He took a deep breath, then dropped to one knee, pulling out a ring. "Elizabeth Parker, will you marry me?" Tears filled her eyes as she nodded, overwhelmed with happiness. "Yes, Alexander. Yes, I will." As he slipped the ring onto her finger, they kissed under the canopy of cherry blossoms, their future bright and full of promise. Elizabeth had found the perfect balance between her career and her personal life, surrounded by love and support. Together, they would continue to lead the Regal Hotel to new heights, building a legacy of excellence, compassion, and unwavering dedication. And as they walked hand in hand, Elizabeth knew that the best was yet to come.